Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Identity Love Podcast, episode number 2. I'm Tracy Konane. I am a life coach and identity specialist for folks who have lost themselves in relationships and don't know who they really are. So I don't only just help you be who you are, be yourself, but I help you be the version of yourself that you feel amazing as, your coolest self. You feel like you want to be this person, and it makes everything else so much easier. It's going to be so much easier to show up in your relationships, in your life, in everything with so much more inner confidence and purpose and good feelings, resilience, all the things that we want right now. And this is how I did it. I started off from not knowing who I am, feeling super duper insecure. That was a whole story of my childhood. Super shy, social anxiety, right? So I myself was like, I don't want to just be myself. I thought I didn't want to be myself because, like I said in episode 1, please listen to it if you haven't yet, it is very misrepresented in our culture. It isn't explained to us how we just be ourselves. Nobody tells us or helps us become ourselves. We're just thrown out into the world, into this conforming machine that tells us, hey, just be yourself. But at the same time, no, don't be yourself like that. Don't do that. You have to live up to these standards. They throw all these rules on us, and it's extremely confusing. So my job here is to explain to you how I figured out how to do this in a way that feels good and makes sense. So this cool version of ourselves. The reason why this is so important, and the reason why this is the centerpiece, the crown jewel, the thing that everything around what I teach and coach rotates upon, is because it is the missing piece to all of our relationship problems and all of our self-love problems, confidence problems, all of that. It is just that we don't know who our coolest self is. Okay, so first of all, I want to clear up any misconceptions about the way that I use this word cool, coolest, right? I don't mean cool as in like the cool kids in high school that you might think of that were just super trendy and were kind of assholes or something, right? Or too cool for school, like just always breaking the rules and never listening to the teacher and all that stuff. You might have certain connotations of cool that don't feel good to you because it reminds you of people who are trying to, show off, or there's something about them where you felt like they're just trying to get all this cool approval. And that's not what I mean. So when I say cool, I'm talking about people that you yourself feel like they are cool. Like you like them in a way that feels inspiring and just like you want to be around them, or you'd want to have friends like them. And there's just something about them that your soul feels drawn to and inspired. So, for example, there are some cool band geeks. I was a band geek in high school. I was in marching band for all 4 years. I played the flute. If I could go back and do it again, I'd play trombone. That's another story. There was this one guy who played the drums and had really cool fashion and kind of looked like a modern Jimi Hendrix. And he was just super fun, super charismatic, just a chill. And he had this amazing style, amazing personality. Just everyone liked him. And he was just, in my eyes, the coolest. Nobody told me, oh, he's cool. You gotta like him, The cool thing about him that I was drawn to was that he was super chill. He wasn't trying to be cool. He was just expressing himself. And you could tell that he just was comfortable with who he was, and he was happy about life, and he was just into his own quirky things. And he was just chill and happy with himself in a very genuine, non-self-aggrandizing, trying to care about what everybody else thinks kind of thing. He was just super cool and comfortable with who he was and didn't mind expressing himself in these ways because they were genuine to him. He was very unique. He didn't try to dress cool. He took bits and pieces from different eras and like animes and cartoons and all this nerdy stuff put together with this kind of cool 70s look. And it was just super unique. And this was high school, and nobody could have come up with that just by looking at a magazine. It was literally just him expressing himself naturally, unabashedly, happily as himself. And I was so drawn to that. I thought that was the coolest thing. So I talked about this a lot in the first episode, but I want you to think of people like that. There's people in your life that you thought were cool. And you probably just dusted it off and you're like, yeah, that happened. But I want you to think of these people, and I want you to see this as super important and as wisdom and clues and cues to your coolest self. And I want to make it clear that this is not about taking somebody and literally copying them. It's not like I literally need to become this guy that I was talking about in high school. It's just that what he represented for me and what your muses, the people you think are the coolest, what they represent for you is a unique piece to your soul, to who you really are. They are invitations to you to think differently about yourself, to see that there's different parts of you inside that haven't been allowed to come out. But the fact that you were drawn to this version of this person is a sign that there's some of that in your own flavor, in your own way, inside yourself. So what is going on here is that as human beings, we are drawn to this idea of our quote-unquote higher self. Being our coolest self is actually a human need. You can look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Perhaps you remember it from back in the days in high school. Basically, it is this pyramid graph that shows the different levels of human needs that we have. And so the basic levels are all about just food, water, shelter to survive. And then as you go higher up in the pyramid, you have safety and a steady income and friendships, relationships, a purpose. Okay, so it's just this different levels of needs that we humans have. And at the very top of the pyramid is the need of self-actualization, which means becoming everything that we could possibly be. And oh my God, does that sound extremely lofty and extremely, oh my God, what are we doing? Meditating on top of a mountain and reaching nirvana and becoming millionaires and just doing every single thing possible, climbing Mount Everest. It can sound so immensely stressful to think that we're going to have to put ourselves out there and do all this stuff that is our fullest potential. Basically, when they say self-actualization, it makes us think about this version of our highest self, and it sounds so heavenly and so lofty that for most of us, we kind of just like laugh that off. And we think that that is just so extreme. That's not exactly lighting a fire under our ass. That's not exactly inspiring. It sounds like more things to live up to and to compare ourselves with, which is the last thing us people pleasers need. So I'm rephrasing this as your coolest self. It is a human need to want to become this ideal version of ourselves. And it doesn't have to be this angelic being. It is what you want it to be. So instead of thinking of it as your highest self, think of it as your coolest self. The version of you that you can imagine and you'd look at and you think, oh man, that is so cool. I love everything about that. I feel alive thinking about that version of myself. I feel inspired thinking about that version of myself. If I could be that version of me and actually do all the things in that person's life, I would feel really good about who I am. I'd feel very fulfilled in my soul. Here's a fun exercise. I want you to imagine that there's a version of yourself with the exact same circumstances, right? Same childhood, same location, same everything that happened, who lives in a different dimension. But this version of you is a cool version of you. This version of you, right, looks like you, has the same background as you, but this version of you is doing things differently. They have a different perspective on life. They're going forth and doing the cool things that you'd be so jealous that they're doing. You're like, oh man, they're doing that. I would really want to do that. Not because anyone else would think it's super cool, but because your soul thinks that's super cool. It's not that they're over there being a billionaire. It's that they're over there writing this book or something, or going for this life that you've always dreamed of. Maybe they're living on a houseboat. Maybe they're traveling the world. Maybe they move somewhere and starting a family. It doesn't matter how big or small or different it is. Maybe they're just dressing differently. Maybe they're just going through their life with a different attitude, with a different outlook. Maybe they make slightly different choices. Maybe they work somewhere different. Whatever it is, they're doing something different. They're doing the same life in a different way and showing up in a different way. And you look at them and that is like, you're like, you know, that's the coolest version of me. In the beginning, I found it really hard to think of the cool version of myself that didn't involve everything that my partners thought was cool. I think when I started off, I thought that the coolest version of me was this badass biker chick who had all leather jacket, pants. She had a motorcycle. She is kind of tomboyish and tough, but of course super sexy and super sweet at the same time. Oh, she plays video games. She's like a gamer girl. This is who I thought I needed to be for certain exes. And oh, she has tattoos or something. She's just like a male fantasy of the coolest biker chick kind of thing. Part of that I did think was cool. I do kind of like that tomboy biker chick, rock and roll kind of feel, but it wasn't entirely that. I liked parts of that. I liked the energy of that. But for me to imagine actually living that life, actually doing those things, actually risking my life on a motorcycle, which I did try, by the way, and didn't last very long. I chickened out. Imagining myself actually living that life, it didn't feel 100% congruent to my soul. Deep down, there were so many different things that I was drawn to. And so thinking back to the guy in high school that I mentioned, he was cool, but not in this badass, hard rock and roll way. He was cool in this more colorful, more chill, slightly more geeky, unique, friendly way. And I liked that so much more. Like, I wanted to always just be someone who was chill and unique and friendly and was doing creative things in her life and was having fun and doing things that she was passionate about. And here's the thing about the people that we think are the coolest. They are going forth and just doing whatever they want in their own loving way. And they don't care what anyone thinks. That's what we think is cool. Notice that you're not drawn to thinking someone is cool when they are constantly worrying about, oh my God, but is this good enough? Can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? Do you guys think it's cool? Because if not, I'll do something different. Notice that that's not who we think is cool. Whether it's Angelina Jolie or if it's Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus, who is also one of my muses, by the way. Both of those people, they don't care what anyone thinks. They're not like, is this okay? We are drawn to people and we think that they're super cool when they're just being themselves freely. And like, yeah, they're like, this is me. I'm going to do it. If it doesn't make sense to you, whatever. I'm having fun doing it. This is who I want to be. This is who we think is cool. Notice that deep down inside, that's who we most want to be. Our own version of that. Will we feel free and excited to be all these? If you're listening to this, I'm pointing to the poster behind me that says, be inexplicable, nuanced, and distinct. This is what we most want to be. We just want to be inexplicably ourselves, which means there's no real explanation, right? We just have fun. We just want to wear what we want to wear. We are drawn to doing this weird thing on Saturday because we're interested in it. We don't have to explain it to anybody. We're just doing us, right? We're just like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Nuanced. Nuanced means you have many different layers. You're not just one stereotypical thing. There's so many different levels and layers and nuances to it. And that's who you want to be. You don't want to be just this predictable, straightforward thing. You want to be complex and interesting and have all these different things. Like sometimes I want to wear all black and be super minimalist. Sometimes, like today, I want to wear tiger print shirts. That's inexplicable and nuanced. It's like there's so many different levels to me. And distinct, we all want to be distinct in our own ways. Maybe you don't want to have obnoxious hair and wear a tiger shirt, but you want to feel like there's something about you that stands out as yourself. Again, I'm drawn to visuals, so when I think of certain people that I'm inspired by, they usually look a certain way. They have a very distinct visual quality. But for you, it could be something completely non-visual, undetectable to the common eye. It could be something like a certain way of living, or certain choices, or a certain vibe, or a certain career choice, or it could be anything that stands out to you that you feel like, oh, I wish I could just be distinctly that in my life. You know, it's something that stands out. We think that the coolest versions of other people and ourselves are people who have a distinct quality about them. And what you're going to be drawn to is going to be different from what I am drawn to, of course. But we have to pay attention to these things that are inexplicable, nuanced, and distinct within ourselves and within those that we think are cool. And I want you to remind you that your coolest, highest self is inexplicable, nuanced, and distinct, and has all these different components to them and formulas and flavors to them. They're not one note. They are changing over time. They are interesting and unique and special, and this is what we are craving to be. This is why we are so attached and reliant upon our partners. Okay? Because we're craving to feel good enough, special, distinct, unique, something. We're craving to feel like a somebody. I felt like such a nobody all my life that when I had someone to choose me and say, will you be my girlfriend? I felt like I was somebody. But I was reliant on this person choosing me to feel like somebody. So when we are relying on our partners, all that is going on is that we are trying to feel like a version of our coolest selves. I want you to think about that. We're not trying to be needy. We're not trying to just lock down this person and cling on to them and change ourselves for them. What we're trying to do is to use them as a vehicle, as a way to make us feel more of who we are craving to be. Because if you're like me, you probably have been craving to feel like somebody, to feel special on your own for most of your life. And once this person saw you and they were attracted to you, you felt like finally you could feel some of that stuff that you've been craving, right? Like I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, I'm with so-and-so. I'm so-and-so's girlfriend. I'm with so-and-so. And I drive around listening to this song that made me think about him. And it gave me this uplifted, cooler identity than who I was before I was with him. And so, of course, I craved more and more and more of that. The moment that I thought that he wasn't seeing me as his desired partner, the moment that I thought that I was losing his interest or I wasn't being good enough for him, I would start to freak out because I wanted to maintain this cool version of myself. And I was so afraid of not only, of course, losing him and his love and all of that and our partnership, but losing myself, losing this cool version of myself that I thought I needed him in order to maintain. So we are relying on our partners because we have this human need to be this version of ourselves that we most desire to be. That's what's going on. And until we realize this and admit it to ourselves, we are not going to fully understand what needs to be done. We're going to think it's all these different problems, all these different things that we need to fix that are, personality things, relationship things. We're going to distract ourselves from the main problem, which is that we're not focused on becoming this version of ourselves that we want to be. We stay in relationships that don't feel good to us. We stay with people that we know is not good for us. We stay. We settle. And we try to logic our ways into it, thinking, oh, but we can make this work, when deep down inside we're just holding on to them because we want to feel this way that we get to feel around them. This is why we feel needy. This desire to be this cooler version of ourselves and relying on our partner for it is why we are needy. It's not because you have this needy gene in your DNA. It's because you are getting to feel like this cool version of yourself when you're around them. And so we get upset and we feel needy the moment that we feel like our partner is not giving us the validation that we are this cooler thing. And so we keep going out of our way to be like, no, let me please you more so you think I'm cool again. And so I'll feel cool again. I need you around to affirm that I am this person that I feel like I am for you. That is how we become needy. It is not because of a personality flaw. It is because we are just relying solely on them to feel this cooler version of ourselves. And then this is also why we feel so self-conscious. This is why. Because we're trying to fit all these rules, these check boxes. We are trying to do everything we can to make our partners, other people, the entire world think that we are this identity that we crave to be, which is this cooler version of ourselves, the version of ourselves that is the nicest ever, good enough, special, attractive, lovable, everything. We are trying to control what people are thinking and feeling about us because we're trying to control them thinking that we are this cooler version of ourselves, so then we can then believe that we are that. But we're relying on what they're thinking and wanting for us to feel that way. And finally, this is why we feel jealous and insecure and moody, because the moment that we think that we're having that identity slip from our fingers, the moment that somebody else might be living up to someone else's expectations a smidge more than we are, the moment that someone else could be better than us in some way, we compare ourselves to, our identity slips from our fingers, and we get jealous and moody and insecure. It is not because you're born that way. It's because you're relying on everyone else to make you feel like this better version of yourself. So, now, do you see that the solution to all these problems is for us to figure out who we want to be for ourselves, what is the coolest version of ourselves for ourselves, right? Like for me, it's not the biker jacket wearing version. I had to figure it out. I have to figure out, okay, what do I want to keep from that? Maybe I want to keep the leather jacket part, the rock and roll kind of look part. But what else do I want to do away with? I don't want all of that. We have to start thinking about what life would feel good for us, what version of ourselves would feel good to us, who would we genuinely feel good being, no matter what someone else is thinking of us. Even if your partner broke up with you, even if you woke up and everybody that you currently know has vanished off the face of the earth, you'd still know that this version of yourself is who you want to be. Because it's solely custom created for you, from your own soul, from your own vision, and not because of you're trying to please someone else's version of what they think is cool. So this idea is going to grow with you over time. I don't want you to freak out if you feel like you have no idea or that you're not sure if you're doing it right. I just want to plant the seed and let it start to grow, because this is what we have to do. We have to plant these little seeds, and as we go through life, the seed is going to start to grow and sprout, and we're going to notice things in different ways because we planted this seed in our heads about daydreaming again, imagining different versions of ourselves again, just like how we did as a kid. Like when you're sitting in high school daydreaming about this cooler version of yourself, we're going to have to do that again as adults. It's super important. It's not fickle or irresponsible or unrealistic at all. It is required. It is important. It is extremely wise and full of wisdom to do so. So I basically want you to start imagining who you want to be when you grow up. I'm serious. You're not completely grown up yet, obviously, because you're still growing. You're still getting older. You're still maturing into yourself. You've got still so many years ahead of you. You're still growing up, okay? So I want you to keep daydreaming about who you want to be when you grow up. I am dead serious. This is super important. Like I said, this is going to sound like it's playing around, but it is super powerful. It is super grounded. It is chock full of everything, of all the information you need to know in order to change everything in your life, to be who you most want to be, to finally alleviate all these things in your life and feel so much better as yourself and show up so much differently in your life. This is the one thing I focused on that actually changed everything for me. This is what I did, okay? I had to figure out who I thought was the coolest version of myself for me. And finally, I just want to keep reiterating this because I'm trying to break this bad habit of thinking that us partner pleasers have. But this cooler version of yourself that you are conceptualizing and putting together in your head and getting bits and pieces of, this version of yourself is who you really are inside. I'm going to repeat. 2, start to imagine and conceptualize and work towards becoming more of this cooler version of yourself that feels good to your soul, that makes total sense to you, and would still be something and somebody you want to be, even if everybody you know now dropped off the face of the earth. To focus on that is to find yourself. It is to be true to yourself. And it is going to lead to you liking, loving, feeling confident toward yourself. It is who you really are. It is the person that you've been while you were been partner pleasing, people pleasing, worrying about everybody else, trying so hard for everybody else. That version of yourself is not who you really are. That's the version of yourself that you've been while trying to please everybody else. The true version of you is who you are when you're being cool for you. So again, this is going to grow with you over time. Right now, it's just about pointing the compass in a new direction. We've been pointing the compass in the direction of pleasing everyone else. We're now pointing it in the direction of pleasing ourselves. We're just pointing it. You don't have to get it perfect. You don't have to sit down and do all this hard work on it. You just have to let it sit there in your mind and let it grow over time. It is about doing more of feeling inspired. Thinking about and scanning for things that inspire us, that feel good for us, that make sense to us. And just letting that be important. So it's not about stopping ourselves from worrying about what other people are thinking. It's not about trying to say, I'm not going to care anymore. It is about caring more about things that stand out to you and that inspire you. The stuff that nobody told you to like or be inspired by, but you're just drawn to and you think it's cool in your own way. Okay. So again, if this sounds amazing to you, if you are thinking you are ready to go all in on this and do this for real in your life and ensure that you actually do this and become a new person in a year from now, come work with me in Identity Love Year. It is a 12-month one-on-one coaching program with me. I do this work directly with you. You're going to get a customized experience of me looking at you and seeing you and nurturing you into yourself, into your coolest self. So in 1 year, you are more of this cooler self and you feel good about being this cool version of yourself and you know who you really are and you feel inspired and excited and purposeful to be who you are. if you want one-on-one personalized help with this, so you will get there for sure in 1 year, come work with me, identitylove.com/year. This is what I do. This is what my passion is. I love doing this. It is so exciting for me to take somebody who feels like they're nobody and show them and get them excited and inspired of this other version inside of them. And then we take steps to do all these amazing, fun, devious things in their life that completely change who they are from the inside out. And their life changes in an instant sometimes. It doesn't have to take a year. It's just that the full year is to make sure that you implement this and you become this full version of yourself completely for life. And you'll never not know how to do this. So come work with me if you're interested in that. And I'm going to continue talking about this in other episodes, so stay tuned. If you have any questions or podcast ideas, you can DM me on Instagram at Tracy Konane or leave a message for me on my website, identitylove.com. And I'd love to hear from you. So I hope this has been super inspiring. I hope that it has opened your eyes to something that you hadn't seen before. And I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast episode. All right, everyone. Take care. Take care of your identities. Love all these interesting little things about yourself. See yourself as important and full of cool wisdom. And know that there is a super cool version of you inside yourself waiting to come out. All right, everyone. I'll talk to you later. Bye.